Now then, our next guest is a medic who's turned tragedy into triumph after he's become England's first paralysed surgeon. 2 years ago, Mohammed Belal was left fighting for his life after being struck by a tree whilst he was out cycling. And now, after thousands of hours of rehab, he's back working with the help of special equipment. He joins me now. Thank you for coming in today. I know you're very busy. You did an operation yesterday. What's your area of expertise?
Yeah, so my area of expertise is looking after patients with spinal cord injury when it affects their bladder. So it's paradoxically called neurourology. So I'd spent 10 years before my accident looking after patients in spinal cord injury with wheelchairs. Anything that affects your spine or your brain affects your bladder, and I was the main specialist in the West Midlands.
So there's an irony in this, isn't there?
Absolutely.
So you decided during the pandemic to help your mental health and get out that you take up cycling.
Right.
And then in February 21, you're out with a friend and you were cycling. What happened next?
So it was a very nice day. There was no wind, and we're out in the countryside, and you take it in turns. And at that moment, I was in front of my friend, and suddenly a tree fell, and literally fell out of nowhere. And I remember the time thinking, this is going to hurt. I knew it was so quick that the tree was going to hit me. The next thing I remember was waking up. I tried to get up, and then I instantly realised I was paralysed from the waist down, from the belly button down. And the weirdest thing happened. I visualised myself in a wheelchair, and the second thought was, it's going to be a long journey. And then the pain kicked in, and I knew I'd broken my back, but I'd broken my ribs, I'd broken my scapula. I do remember the ambulance gentleman turning up, insisting that the paracetamol was going to help me. I was very much of the opinion.
It was going to take more than
that. Yeah.
But also for you, when you're having all of those thoughts when you come round, I mean, it all seems very matter of fact. I mean, you are an incredibly positive person, which is why all of this is happening, because you're so positive. But to think this is going to be a long journey now. Yeah. You were aware that this is permanent. This isn't a temporary numbing.
No. I think because I'd spent the last 10 years looking after patients with spinal cord injury, I knew what journey I was going to be on. And then when I woke up, actually, it was very serene. There was no negativity. There was no why me. And I was very lucky. And that mindset of accepting things, however tragic they may be, allows you to move forward. And I'm forever grateful for that matter.
You were in hospital during the pandemic, and so your wife, Elizabeth, could only be there for an hour or so every so often, and your kids couldn't see you.
That's
You've got 3 children.
That's right. Yeah, and it was very challenging during the COVID period. Not surprisingly, the visiting was limited, and so that added further difficulty. But the important thing was I kept positive throughout the whole experience, especially after subsequently going through second lots of redo surgery at the Royal Orthopaedic National Hospital. I realised that the journey is not a linear journey. You'll have ups and downs, and the key thing is to always try and reframe things in a positive light.
But you didn't see your children for months.
That's right.
And you were concerned how they were going to react. What does this mean now when you go back into the family in a chair?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a very big concern. And what I realised was that actually the way I interact with them will determine how our relationship moves forward. So I was very positive with them. We had fun, we had chat. It felt like, you know, it was like being at home, and the kids just rose to the challenge, and I'm forever grateful that they took it in their stride. I mean,
not only them, but work as well. Because there was no doubt you knew, I'm going to go back to work.
Yeah, I set myself that goal. One of the amazing things was I received lots of letters from patients I was privileged to look after, and made me realise, you know, what an amazing privileged position I'm in. And if I could get back and help those, it would be an incredible thing to do. And that drove me to push so that I could get back at work.
So as we said, it's thousands of hours of rehab and physio. How did work help you to? Because you then have to think, right, okay, I'm gonna do these operations. It's going to change the technique slightly and the way I am. So how did they help you do that?
Yeah, the hospital was very amazing. Now, the University Hospital of Birmingham, they were extremely accommodating. They told me whatever I needed, they would supply. I was very fortunate to go to a hospital called Royal Buxton, where we went through all the different equipment, through intensive physiotherapy. We planned things with the simulation day where we spent the whole team together in theatre. We went through, without the patient, working how to scrub up, what positions. I was very fortunate, a colleague of mine who had trained, Mr. Tom King, has been assisting me throughout the transition back. So, you know, I've been very fortunate with the degree of methodical approach we were able to come back.
So this is a specialist chair that lifts you up so that you can get up and over your patient.
Right. Yeah. So it's the journey's just only begun because that is such specialised surgery and such a repertoire surgery that it's going to take me at least a year or two to try and do the more complicated surgery. But I have to accept that some of the surgery I won't be able to do, which were the very complicated operations, which would last 6 to 8 hours, which even a fully able person would find difficult. However, there's loads of operations I can do, and I have a very different perspective on talking to patients.
Were you nervous when you went in for the first time?
I wasn't nervous. The operative side, having operated for 20 years, was fine. It was just working out the positioning and the help, and the team were amazing. And I felt very comfortable. And the first operation itself went swimmingly well. But I realised it's the start of a journey. It's not the end of the journey.
But you've said it's made me a better doctor.
Oh, absolutely.
In what way?
I think being a patient and having gone through what I've gone through, what I realised was the most important thing about hope. Hope is so important. It allows you to drive, allows you to push, and getting that different perspective from the patient. You know, as a doctor, you have what you would like to tell the patient, but actually what the patient wants may not necessarily be what you're actually talking about. So it's giving me a unique perspective, especially with patients with spinal cord injury, patients in wheelchair, and the difficulty they go through. And it's not about understanding, it's truly understanding what they go through and what's important to them.
There's no question you will be an inspiration because there will be people thinking, right, OK, you know, I can see what's happened here and look what you've done, look what you've continued to do. And is that the philosophy, that no matter what, anything is possible?
Absolutely. I think it's how you perceive things. So for me, I now consider my spinal cord injury a blessing. I don't actually consider it a negative. I've lost the use of my legs, but I've gained so much more. And I think having that mindset is that whatever befalls you, you can always try your best to make the best out of that situation. And for me, just to come back and help patients, you know, I feel incredibly privileged to be in this position.
Well, it's amazing to meet you. Thank you very much indeed.
Sure.
It's a great message.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.